Hi, everybody. I'm Dave McClelland, and welcome to Drag Racing 92. Working with me, as always, is my good pal,
Steve Evans. And Mac, as you know, in 1992, we saw a driver win the Pro Stock Winston Championship who'd been trying for over a decade.
In Top Fuel, it was the ultimate challenge throughout the entire season. It was a seesaw battle, and it went right down to the end.
And in Funny Car, a late-season challenge by a rookie we'll not soon forget. You ready?
I'm ready. Why don't we start at the beginning, which was the Chief Auto Parts Winter Nationals at Pomona, California.
As always, the LA County Fairplex was jammed to capacity for the lid lifter of the 1992 season. And in Top Fuel qualifying, there was a horrifying moment involving Jimmy Nix of Oklahoma City. Jimmy had had two bad accidents in 1991, neither of which caused serious injury, and was hoping for a more productive 1992. He was in the near lane.
The blowover started just before the finish line. The front wheels came off the pavement, and before Jimmy Nix could do anything about it, the car was over backwards. The replay shows us how quick this accident had happened. It may well have been the fastest blowover ever. The car landed tail first, right on the engine. The oil pan exploded. A ball of flame engulfed the race car, and inside that flame was Jimmy Nix. He was a hapless passenger on a ride he just as soon would have not taken, and he had a choice. The car skidded several thousand feet down the runoff area at Pomona, California, until it finally came to the sand trap at the far end of the racetrack. As the car went into the sand, it came to a stop, and the NHRA Safety Safari was quickly on the scene. Part of that safari is Dr. David Brown. Steve Evans was there to talk with him.
Yes, he sustained burns to his feet and to his hands mainly. He was alert and neurologically intact, and then he's being transported at the present time to UC Irvine Burn Center. He was stable otherwise when he left from here, and the equipment held up, considering what he went through.
Certainly good news about Jimmy Nix.
And you want the shocker? Jimmy was back in competition before the season was over.
Coming into the Winter Nationals, Don Prudhomme was certainly a favorite. He had been running 480s in practice runs leading up to the event.
In many ways, the biggest surprise of this Winter Nationals is not what has happened, but what didn't. Don Prudhomme, who was favored to be #1 in Top Fuel, didn't qualify, and I know you're as stunned as we are.
Well, we sure are. We had a lot of problems with the car. You know, it tested well at Bakersfield, at Phoenix. You know, we're on 488, 295, and we're all set to come here and run well. But from just the minute it came off the trailer, things started going bad for us, Steve. I don't have to tell you that. You watched every run, and it's just one of those things. That's what happens in drag racing, but we'll be back.
Doug Herbert provided a bit of a shock for everyone at the Winter Nationals. He qualified in the #7 spot at a 497. And his first round opponent was Ed McCulloch, starting his first full season at the wheel of a Top Fuel dragster.
That's right, and with a brand new crew chief as well. Lee Beard joining Larry Minor Racing on the McDonald's banner. The fans have been looking forward to seeing this car, and they certainly did. It was in the near lane, but all of the thunder here was to be stolen by the young man from North Carolina, Doug Herbert. Watch the far side of the racetrack. At the time this was accomplished, it was the quickest elapsed time in the history of drag racing.
There it was, 4.88 seconds at 292.
This man has just done the pits, the grandstands, and this announcer. Doug Herbert, 488 with a 0. You're the quickest ever.
That's great. I can't even believe it. 488 that's awesome. It's my kid's birthday today, so this one's for him.
Pat Austin came away with a new national record at 4.893. Actually, Herbert ran quicker, but was unable to back it up.
The hits just kept on coming in round 1 at Top Fuel at Pomona. Michael Brotherton was up against Robert Reel. Brotherton on the far side, Reel was in the near lane. Now, Brotherton had wonderful performance on this day in the Darrell Gwynn car. You see him streaking to a 494, but uh-oh, an engine explosion and no parachutes. On the shortest racetrack in the Western Division, Michael Brotherton elects not to go to the sand trap, so maybe he could preserve the car for round 2. He almost did it until it turned turtle at the very last second.
Steve, our slow motion camera gives us an opportunity to watch this one happen. As the car crossed the finish line, you saw all the oil come out and it instantly lit off. When it did, it burned the parachutes off. Of course, Brotherton was pulling on the brake handle just as hard as he could until he got down to the very end. He almost saved it, but that final little turn to the left proved to be a bit too much, and it rolled up on its side. Brotherton was uninjured in this incident.
Michael, you almost pulled it off. You almost
tried to save it. I mean, I knew we won. I don't know what happened. It come apart in the lights.
Chutes burned off.
Yeah, well, Ronnie said they come out, but they just fell on the ground. They were wadded up. I tried to get it to slide to a stop so we could race next round because I saw the wind light come on and a lot of fire in the cockpit. I don't know. It's a little tweaked. It ain't broken, too. We got A-frames in the trailer. We might give it a shot.
Talk about excited optimism. It didn't work out, though. They were out of competition for the day.
All right, the Top Fuel semifinal was a great one. Kenny Bernstein, Dallas, Texas, up against Joe Amato, the defending Winston champion, Old Forge, Pennsylvania. Drag races just don't get a whole lot closer or more emotion-packed than this one. Kenny Bernstein won it on a hole shot of 498 to a 495. Don Garlett stocked at Dale Armstrong.
When it comes down to races like this, he saves us. I mean, he's done that so many times for us, and we're just trying to creep up on it. I'm just thankful we got by that one.
In the final round of Top Fuel Eliminator, it was Jim Head challenging Kenny Bernstein. One of the best days that Jim Head ever had in racing came here at the Winter Nationals. As Buster Couch says, bring him up to the starting line, guys, or I'm going to go to lunch. Bernstein was on the far side of the track, and it was a closer race than you would have imagined. Bernstein had the lead by over a car length as they crossed the finish line.
It was a great race. Jim Head did a fantastic job. We knew he'd be there. In this game, you can't take anyone for granted, and if you do, you're going to get whipped. It's that simple.
Kenny Bernstein elated after winning the opening Cheap Auto Parts Winter Nationals in Top Fuel. Well, in the funny car category, things got real interesting. Computer wizard turned drag racer Jim Epler from Vancouver, Washington, was suddenly a serious threat because of that man. His crew chief, young Mike Clover, a veteran of the Don Prudhomme team, had been out of the sport for a couple of years and came back with some newfound knowledge.
Epler defeated Al Hoffman in the second round, a 527 to a 530. Then in the semifinals, it was Dale Caldy who fell victim to Epler. He continued his consistent performance with a 534 victory. The final round found John Force, the reigning Winston champion, challenging Jim Epler for the Winter Nationals title.
John Force, the two-time Winston champion, was absolutely pumped going into the final round against Epler. He kept saying, Jim who? Jim who? Force was totally confident that he could win this race and leave with the points lead, something he hoped to maintain throughout the 18-race season. Well, Jim Epler had something to say about that.
John Force utilized all of his skills at the starting line. He got a giant hole shot over Epler, but was unable to make it pay off. Epler's time of 5:26, more than enough for the victory.
The first national event where you ever got a single round win and you go all the way.
Well, that's the way it should be, isn't it?
That's the way it's written in the book.
Yeah, no, I think I'm in the funny car deal to stay, and I hope the funny car class can see a little bit from what I'm doing here and come back and help the sport a little.
But to beat John Force, to run steady 20s all day long, unbelievable.
Well, it really is, and that's a tribute to Mike Klobler and his tuning ability.
Jim Epler celebrating with his twin girls, his first ever NHRA national event victory. Jerry Ekman had quite a day at the Winter Nationals. He got himself a new national record, and in the final round, he met Jim Yates in his Pontiac. Yates, making his first ever final round appearance, came up against Ekman. He had himself a good reaction time, but did not have the power to take the win.
A shocker here. I mean, where was Warren Johnson, the Dodger, Bob Bush, in their trailers? And Yates, even though it was his first ever final round, was composed enough to get the whole shot advantage by 100.
But the Pontiac of Jerry Ekman marched on to the finish line and took the win and is 7-19.
Jerry Ekman, you've won the Winter Nationals, but you had a tough opponent in Jim Yates. It was a great race.
Oh, Jim's so tough. He's a tough competitor on that starting line. He's hard to get away from, you know. I figured
to catch him.
Oh, I know I did. I know. I saw him out there for a ways, and I thought I'm reeling him in a little at a time, and I finally got around him about half track, and I figured I could hold him off, and we didn't have a problem.
And you leave here with a new national record. What a day.
Man, what can I say? It doesn't get any better than this.
See you 3 weeks in Phoenix.
Good enough, Steve.
The celebration began for the team of Orndorff and Ekman, picking up the opening win of the season.
And it was on to Phoenix, Arizona, where the Nashville Network became the first ever to televise NHRA drag racing live the pro final rounds with the Motorcraft Nationals. All of the pro stock fans, well, they were talking about Scott Jeffrey new at the wheel of the Dodge. We talked to Scott before racing began about his chances, well, and the opportunity he was being given.
I'm just going to go out here and do a real good job, I think, for Mopar and Dodge, and I think it's just a matter of building some chemistry amongst our personalities on the team here in the beginning, and I think everything will gel just fine after that.
Quite an opportunity for Jeffrey The question was, what did the other racers think of the season?
It appears right now that maybe Ekman might have the edge, but anyone can pop up in pro stock, as he has proven. We've come from the bottom of the pack to the middle of the pack here at the Motorcraft Nationals, and anyone could jump up and bite us at this time.
All last year, that Dodge was rampaging all over this country, and this year I hope it's us, because we've been running well, and I hope we can last all year like that.
Well, it's going to probably be difficult for everybody out there. I mean, there's so many cars running extremely close right now. It's not going to be a 1 or 2 car battle as it was last year by any stretch of the imagination. I see probably 6, maybe as many as 8 cars being able to battle this thing out towards the end.
As you watch the rest of this show, remember what those drivers had to say. We'll see who was right and who was wrong. Well, for Scott Jeffrey it was a short day. Not a particularly auspicious debut in the Dodge. He was in the near lane, got completely out of control. Nobody ever said that car was easy to drive, and Jim Yates advanced.
It was a windy day in Phoenix as Warren Johnson came up in the far lane to race against Jerry Ekman. This was the semi-final round of competition.
And Ekman never looked better. He was off the mark first. Warren Johnson had mechanical problems. Some think he missed a gear. And it was Ekman at 724, 190 miles an hour, to go into the final round against Don Beverly in a number 2 Warren Johnson car. But Beverly, not as a hired driver, he leased the automobile along with Kurt Johnson, Warren's son. They were an independent team up against Ekman. But still, you know who Warren was rooting for.
And Beverly delivered with a great reaction time off the starting line, but had handling problems in the middle of the course, and Ekman won his 2nd in a row.
I saw that white car all the way through low gear. He was out on me, and these guys have been taking shots at me, and you know, that's what happens when you're running well. And I knew one of them was bound to get lucky, and he got out on me pretty good. But this Pennzoil Pontiac with Stratford Motor Products helping out really put it on in the middle of the track, and I'm so thrilled to be here at the finish line as a winner.
In funny car, the racer's racer, Tom Hoover, never looked better. Tom, who had not won an NHRA national event in many, many years, came up alongside John Force in round number 2. And let's remember, Force had been beaten in the final round at Pomona. He came here hungry for a victory, and Winston Point.
It's not often that John Force just flat gets outrun, but that's what happened in Phoenix as Tom Hoover ran 5:32.
His car made a move, and it drove away from me, and my car wasn't shaking. I knew I was in trouble. I was hoping I could drive around him, but that Hoover family is a great family, and I'm glad they won.
And it is a family operation with Tom Hoover's dad, George, at the age of 82 plus, serving as the crew chief on this race car. The competition in the final round for Tom Hoover was young Richard Hartman, one of the rising stars of funny car racing. But this was not to be Hartman's day, as he had problems getting the power to the racetrack. Hoover again with the consistent performance that carried him to the championship. A 5:27, Hartman all over the racetrack. As you might imagine, Hoover's crew does not get to celebrate very often, and they certainly did it with style in Phoenix.
This prize money comes in handy to a team like yours. You're not overfunded.
No, we're not, and we're had a little bad luck at Pomona here. We hurt a car, and to come back now and win this one, and in modern times, as Brooks said, here we go.
The victory at Phoenix moved Tom Hoover into contention in the Winston points chase. He was third with Jim Epler, the leader, John Force second, followed by Richard Hartman and Dale Poldy in the number 5 spot.
In Top Fuel, we didn't have to wait very long for some drama. Round 1, Pat Austin up against Kenny Bernstein, a rematch of the final round of the 1991 U.S. Nationals. Bernstein, the Winter Nationals winner, still reveling in that victory. Austin, the new record holder, but Bernstein did not have enough muscle for the youngster from Tacoma in round 1. Kenny Bernstein falls after having won at Pomona. That was a pattern we would see repeat itself later on in the season.
In the second round of Top Fuel, Joe Amato squared off against the new quickest man in the sport, Doug Herbert. It was not to be Amato's day, though, as he had hoped to take advantage of Bernstein being out. He went up in smoke instead. Herbert took the victory, and Steve had a chance to talk with Tim Richards, Amato's crew chief.
Well, we were worried about this tailwind we got here. We find we lose about 450 pounds of downforce, and we were up as far as we could go the whole race here, and I was definitely worried about it going in here, but sometimes you win, sometimes you don't.
Doug Herbert continued his winning ways, marching through the semifinals to meet up against Pat Austin in the championship round.
This was the battle of the 20-somethings. Austin came in with lane choice at the flash of the green light. The throttle linkage broke on the Doug Herbert car.
Pat Austin runs 5:06 and 2:86 to take the second race of the season, the Motorcraft Ford Nationals.
You probably read this track better than anybody today. You always knew which was the best lane and you selected it throughout the competition.
Yeah, I think that comes with the experience of the guys. You know, my dad and the guys work together, and they've been working together real well, and I think it's shown our performance. And being a new team, I think it's very important to go out and do good earlier if things can fall apart, and we're doing good so far.
Pat Austin driving 2 cars in competition, both the Top Fuel dragster and his alcohol funny car. After 2 races, Pat Austin the leader in the points chase, followed by Doug Herbert, Jim Head, Kenny Bernstein, and the reigning champ Joe Amato, number 5.
And as we moved into Houston Raceway Park in the great state of Texas, the performance pundits were predicting fantastic performances if the weather was cool. The Slick 50 Nationals had perfect conditions for record-setting performances, Mac.
Steve, the conditions were absolutely ideal, but for Doug Herbert, he may have wished for a different outcome on this qualifying effort. As he approached the finish line, something cut down the left rear tire. The car nosed into the guardrail. Herbert was able to keep it upright, was uninjured in the incident, but the car was heavily damaged. The impact with the guardrail bent back the front wing into the front suspension components. And as a result, a lot of work went on between rounds to try to get the car ready for the next round.
Yeah, it's going nice and smooth, it seemed like, and you know, just came apart and wham, right to the right. Good thing I got the chutes out right then, so that's probably what saved us.
Also in qualifying in the far lane, keep your eye on Doug Foxworth. They call the car Havoc, and that's what set in here as the engine let go and a ball of flame billowed out the back of this race car. Foxworth was able to bring the car to a safe stop. He was also uninjured in the incident.
Just before this race began, NHRA announced that Slick 50, the sponsor of the event at Houston, would post $50,000 for the first driver to hit 300 miles an hour. Trying to answer that challenge, former funny car driver, now in Top Fuel in the Jack Clark Larry Meyer machine. In round number 1, it was done up against Gene Snow. The black and white car you're looking at would achieve the fastest speed in drag racing history, but just short of 300. Never have we seen an onslaught of numbers as we are here at Houston. Mike Dunn, hang on to your helmet, buddy. 297.
All right. Well, you know, Larry, he tuned it up the other day to run some mile an hour, and we ran 293 yesterday, pretty soft. So it's definitely got some mile an hour in it.
And the record-shattering numbers kept unfolding at Houston as Kenny Bernstein met up with longtime nemesis in funny car racing, now at the wheel of the Top Fuel car, Don Prudhomme. In the near lane was Bernstein. This was round number 1 of competition in Houston, and Bernstein blasted out the quickest elapsed time in history, 4:85, at went over 293.
Kenny Bernstein has just run low elapsed time of the world, 4:85.
Oh, man, what a day. What a fantastic run for the Bud King. But the team, Wes and Dale and the team, they did it. They made it happen.
The cool weather just kept the numbers on the scoreboard as Kenny Bernstein came up in the semifinal round. This time, his victim would be Corey McLenathan. Corey Mack had a great elapsed time at 4:95, but was easily outdistanced by yet another all-time low ET of 4:84.
Another new record, 4:84.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't expect that. We stepped it up a taste, but I didn't think it would do that. That's fantastic.
I hope you enjoy going fast, because you did. 2:96.
Oh, super. Finally got to run down here. You know, we've been fighting that problem. That's going to be fun. That 300 is looking a little better for a lot of people, isn't it?
Great job.
Thank you.
Everybody's attention was focused on the 300-mile-an-hour barrier, but it was not to be broken at Houston, as in the final round, Joe Amato and Kenny Bernstein challenged each other for the Slick 50 Nationals title. Bernstein lost traction. Amato streaked to the finish line with a 4:91 and the win.
Well, we knew it was going to be tough. You know, we run 4:85 and 4:86, but you can never count Team Valvoline and Tim Richards and my guys out. You know, you have to always go there thinking you can win and give it your best shot. And as it worked out, thank God, God was looking over and must have been a guardian angel.
Absolutely. There was a new force to be reckoned with in funny car competition in Houston, and his name was not John. It was Cruz Pedregon at the wheel of the McDonald's Oldsmobile.
Pedregon, a rookie in the funny car category, but with lots of experience in alcohol funny car races and a brief stint at the wheel of Larry Minor's top fuel car. So far in '92, he had been really kind of a bomb tester. This was in round one at Pomona. A blower explosion unlatches the body and it settles down rather gently. Parts and pieces all over the racetrack, and Cruz Pedregon's ears were still ringing. 3 weeks later, Phoenix, Arizona, watch the far lane. Another blower bangs. Another body is destroyed. But crew chief Bernie Federley, the Larry Minor Motorsports crew, came into Houston possessed with performance, and they just strangled the field.
They certainly delivered in the performance category. John Ford was laid off the starting line. 5:18 the winning time. The loser, 5:15.
Well, John, you have lived by the sword off that starting line for a long time. This time you died by it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I really did. The car ran excellent, just like the crew put together, and we're excited. They ran good, too, and I really didn't think I needed the edge on the starting line. I just kind of drove it off, figuring I had them covered, and was concentrating more on trying to put a number up on the board, and what can I say? We lost.
After that round 2 victory by Pedregon, he met up with Al Hoffman in the semifinal. And it was here that the quickest elapsed time in funny car history was recorded, 5.10.
I tell you what, I've always said it. I'm happy to drive this car. This car's got the best equipment, the best car owner, and the best sponsor. Crew chief, I couldn't thank them enough.
In the final round race against Gordon Mineo, he had basically a single as Mineo broke off the starting line and Pedregon ran 5:14 at 2:84. He came out with his first ever national victory and the new national record at a 5:10.
Well, Cruz got his first win, and in Pro Stock, it didn't really matter which driver won. They were going to be brand new into the winner's circle. Ricky Smith, King, North Carolina, the SDP Pontiac, up against Mark Powack, Medina, Ohio, the Oldsmobile-bodied machine. And we couldn't forget as they rolled to the line that Powack the year previous had set the Pro Stock record here to 7:22.
Powack could only hope that 1992 would provide for him the same performance advantage. He and Smith squared off in a close race, and Mark won his first.
Mark, you've been trying since, what, 85? You've held the national record. You've been runner-up so many times. You've done it. You've won Pro Stock.
Reality hasn't set in yet, man, but it's here. You know, we set the record here 2 years ago, and then Ricky beat me first round. I was hoping I could get revenge, and I guess this was revenge today.
Ricky is known as a leaver. You left on him.
I was off today in my driving, but I was really pumped up for the final, and we needed it. And God bless us. You know, the old Cutlass was just flying, man, and it couldn't be a better way for the third race in the season. I think we're the first Oldsmobile to win this year. We're all elated.
There'll be more.
Thank you.
Woo! Celebrate Mark Powack. That's exactly what he did in Houston, Texas, as the tour moved to Gainesville, Florida, and the Motorcraft Gator Nationals.
And television history was made here as well. It was the first ever NHRA same-day coverage on ESPN. But that accomplishment pales in comparison to what we saw from Kenny Bernstein. A cold, rather cloudy, Friday afternoon. Still a good crowd in attendance in Gainesville. Years from now, 200,000 people will tell you they saw this run. But Dave McClelland and myself were there for the moment. And just seeing it in review here, just riding with Kenny Bernstein once again, just gives me goosebumps all over my arms. Hang on to your Barco lounger. You just rode with Kenny Bernstein, just 301.70 miles per hour. The barrier was busted. No one has ever gone quicker. No one has ever gone faster. And Kenny Bernstein, you've exceeded 300 miles an hour.
Oh, Steve, Diamond P, thank you so much. What a deal. I'm speechless. I mean, unbelievable. Dale, Wes, the Budweiser King team, you can't say enough about them. They just keep coming at it. 300 miles an hour, I can't believe it.
301.
It's a dream come true, believe me. I can't say enough about NHRA and the preparation of the racetrack. It took perfect conditions to do it, believe me. I can't believe this.
And a record elapsed time as well at 482.
Oh, my God. Icing on the cake. You didn't tell me that one.
I was saving that.
Oh, whoa, Lord, what a deal.
Kenny Bernstein absolutely overwhelmed by what may be the breaking of the last major barrier in motorsports competition. Over 300 miles an hour, and it was worth $50,000 of slick 50K.
Now, the elapsed time Kenny recorded, 482. That was the quickest in the history of the sport. It paled in comparison in many ways to the speed. But Eddie Hill, in one of the oldest cars in active top fuel competition, in round number 2, rolled to the starting line up against Pat Austin. Still, the conditions were perfect. Cloud cover, temperature in the mid to high 60s, the humidity fairly low. Eddie Hill in the yellow car. He not only beat Pat Austin, he did it in 4.801 seconds. Ursi Hill knew it the moment she saw it. Another world record.
So in one race, we saw the fastest speed ever and the quickest elapsed time ever.
That's what I feel like. That's what I feel like.
In the semifinals of Top Fuel Eliminator, it was to be Kenny Bernstein up against Michael Brotherton. And Bernstein did not fare so well in this round of competition. The car launched well and then went into a wheel stand. And as it crash landed back to the pavement, caused heavy damage to the front end. But Bernstein won the race anyway.
4 pairs of hands overhauling the front end on Kenny Bernstein's car. Brett Bodine, his Winston Cup driver, joins the fray. And Dale Armstrong, normally we'd find you working on the engine, but you've got a higher priority here.
Yeah, but Steve, we're lucky it didn't hurt much at all. Just bent A-frame, so we've checked it out. There's nothing cracked or nothing ground off, so we just got to put the front end back together, and then Wes and I'll get looking at the data and get after the motor.
So the computer survived?
Oh yeah, no problem there. Yeah.
All the work paid off as Kenny Bernstein was able to advance into the final round, where the fastest car in the world squared off against the quickest.
By the time they got to the starting line, you never would have known that Bernstein had incurred any damage whatsoever to his Budweiser King automobile. It was a beauty until Bernstein lost traction. Eddie Hill, another sensational 4-second run, 4.84. I talked with him.
Oh, this is a wonderful place to race, and I just love this old car. I mean, we'll probably have to run this thing until it turns to dust. It works so good.
A 484. You never ran slower than a 489.
Yeah, we had a good series, and I think we're on to something.
Kenny Bernstein's runner-up finish at Gainesville vaulted him into the Winston points lead after 4 of 18 events in the 1992 season. In funny car competition in the final round, I can assure you that John Force knew who his opponent was, Jim Epler.
And Force was a man possessed. No one had to tell him. This was the 4th race of the season. He was winless. Nobody had to tell him that Epler won at Pomona partially because John inadvertently shut his car up a little bit early. Nobody had to tell him he got hole-shotted by Cruz Vanderdock. All of that was on his mind as he tried to salvage something here in the first quarter of the season.
He more than salvaged it in this run as he established not only dominance at the starting line, but at the finish line as well. 5:15 at over 289. John Force and crew very happy over that victory. His family on hand to watch the win at Gainesville.
Yep, there was nobody happier than wife Laura, daughters Ashley, Brittany, and Courtney. They shined, even though their son didn't, at Gainesville. And that launched John Force right to the top of the funny car list, just ahead of Cruz Pedregon, followed by Epler, Hoover, and Hartman.
This was a race that Scott Jeffreyon will long remember as he came to Gainesville and walked away with a new national record. He established the quick elapsed time, but lost in competition in round number 2 against Mark Powick. The final round saw Warren Johnson in his Oldsmobile in the near lane against Jerry Ekman, once again making a strong showing in the early part of the season. But on this race, it was Warren Johnson all day long. He had run consistent 7-14s on every previous round and duplicated that kind of performance here in the final at over 193 miles an hour.
Just a tremendous pro stock final round. And Warren, I'll bet you could guess the elapsed time.
14, let me guess.
You hit it right on the nose. The record is the only thing, though, that eluded you.
Well, the 14 we're happy with. We're more happy with the win, though. That's why we really came here. And Jerry put up a fight. There's no doubt about it. Of course, still a lot of other cars.
After the 4th race of the season, Jerry Ekman held on to the lead substantially over Warren Johnson. Mark Powick was 3rd, followed by Bruce Allen and Scott Jeffreyon.
Well, after 4 truly serious races, it was time for a little fun at the NH3 Winston Invitational. No points on the line, just a whole lot of money, a lot of golf, and good companionship.
Well, Steve, while the points pressure may have been off, but there was a lot of fun at Rockingham, there's still a lot of work, as evidenced here by the crew on the Jerry Ekman-driven Pontiac. He met up in the semifinal round with Bob Glidden at the wheel of the Ford Pro. Ekman had already won 2 races this season and was aiming for a shot at the final round, but he had to get past Glidden first. The 2 500 cubic inch cars barreled down the racetrack, and at the finish line, Ekman prevailed with a 7:25.
Well, I love it when these drivers come rolling into here yelling, "Who won? Did I win? Yes, you won."
Oh, man, that's drag racing. I saw Bob all the way, and I know he saw me, and I don't think he knew who won.
The other side of the semifinal ladder at Rockingham found Warren Johnson owning both race cars. He drove, of course, his famed blue and white AC Delco car, while the solid white machine, driven by Don Beverly, was crew chiefed by Warren's son, Kurt Johnson. In a race that saw nearly identical reaction time, Warren Johnson had the very slight advantage by the time they reached the finish line. His 7:22 prevailed over the 7:24 set by Don Beverly in a very close race. The win here by WJ earned him a shot at Jerry Ekman in the final round of the Winston Invitational.
It was a close race. Don was right there. I knew he would be because I own all that equipment.
But you had to beat him man on man.
That's exactly what it boiled down to. And Don's out here having fun, and I'm out here trying to make a living, and we're both working hard at it.
Oldsmobile against Pontiac. That was the final round pairing at Rockingham. And WJ came into the round with a lane choice, and he selected the lane nearest our cameras. The lane choice did not pay off as WJ had hoped, as Jerry Ekman drove to yet another victory, a 7:23 at over 191.
Yeah, I think the odds makers wrote us off on this deal, but you can't fault this Pennzoil Pontiac and its crew. That's what we're made out of. We come here to win, and we did, and we're thrilled to death.
Take it to the bank.
Thank you very much, Steve.
In the funny car final, it was Chuck Etchels, the Putnam, Connecticut driver whose main claim to fame was a victory a couple of years ago at the Summer Nationals in Englishtown, New Jersey. He brought his Dodge Daytona to the starting line to race against a former Winston champion.
And Matt, you're talking about Mark Oswald, now based out of King, North Carolina, the driver for so many years of the famed Candies and Hughes automobile. And at the Winston Invitational, he and crew chief Bill Schultz were paired up with the Petosa brothers out of Staten Island, New York, and it proved to be an awesome combination on this day. Mark Oswald had no way of knowing, though, that this would be the highlight of his 1992 season. Up against Chuck Etchels.
Oswald just drove away from Etchels to record a 5:33.279 victory.
Mark Oswald, this team can really use the $25,000. They run on a very small budget compared to some of the other machines that have heavy corporate backing. Of course, they, like everyone else, is looking for that. Great job.
Thank you, Steve. I'm really happy. I'm really happy, especially for Winston. The race turnout here, you know, is really fantastic, and Winston's been dedicated to racing like we all have here, so I'm really happy to win this race. And the Petosa brothers, they've been a lifesaver to this race team.
Thanks for a great show.
The Winston Invitational has been dubbed the second of the Joe Amato benefits. He has won the last 2 in a row. Of course, the primary one, being the Budweiser Classic. Amato qualified in the number 4 spot, and in the final round squared off against Don Prudhomme.
Prudhomme had qualified number 2 at a 4.93, but more importantly, he had run back-to-back 4.96s to make it to the final round. Amato had been sneaking up on good performance, but here he was going to have to grab a big handful of it.
Prudhomme's driving skill, his advantage off the starting line, won him this race. The margin of victory, 0.07 of a second.
Well, Amato had to tell me because I didn't know. I know it was one hell of a close race.
Both of you in the board side by side to the finish line.
Well, you know, when you race a guy like Joe, you know, he's just terrific, and their whole team, and our team, John Medlin, Skull Bandit, the crew, everybody has done a great job here.
It was truly a fun weekend for Don Prudhomme and crew at the Winston Invitational at the fabled Rock. Next, we moved on to Mid-State, Georgia, Atlanta, the home of the Fram Southern Nationals.
And as you well know, Mac, there's a certain youngster that always shines in funny car competition here at Atlanta. The 1991 Rookie of the Year, Del Worsham, the defending funny car champion, as we once again came to Gary Brown's Atlanta Dragway. But Worsham, even though he's defending champ, was running way off. He only had a 5.39 in round 1. He lowered that down to a 5.25 in round number 2. And despite a 5.35 in the semis, he was still final round bound for a confrontation with John Force. How about it, young man? For the 2nd year in a row here in Atlanta, you go to the finals.
Yeah, this is great. My dad has the car running good. I've seen him for a long time, and finally, right towards the end, it came around him.
Did it handle any better? It's been a tough car to drive.
Yeah, we put a new set of tires on it. It quit shaking down there and handling better. Things are going real good here.
But to the dismay of Del Worsham, the juggernaut that was John Force was beginning to roll at Atlanta. He had just picked up the last points race title on the tour. That came at the Gator Nationals at Gainesville. And here at Atlanta, he was certainly dominant. He had lane choice in the final round with a 5.22 compared to Worsham's 5.35. But the 22-year-old youngster was not to be counted out. This was one of the greatest funny car races of the entire 1992 season. Nearly identical reaction times. Force was just a little bit late off the line, but he prevailed at the finish, 0.13 of a second.
You know, I'd like to feel better, Steve, but I just like that kid. He's good, he's tough, and hot damn, he raced me right into them lights. I thought neck and neck. I didn't know what he'd done. He did a job on me, I think, on the lights, but I did on the other guys.
Atlanta saw the return to competition of the one and only Big Daddy Don Garland. And he brought with him a truly evolutionary car, one specially approved by NHRA with a single stand wing. And I would tell you, every crew chief in the pits, Dave McClellan, was over to look at this car. Truly a breakthrough.
Steve, as you know, this car was built with one goal in mind, to be the first over 300. That was not to be, and neither was Don Garland's to be a part of the 16-car field at Atlanta. As on this run, he failed to qualify.
He didn't quite make it, but a nice effort at 5.11 on that final shot.
Well, it moved around a little bit there in the middle. You can see the tires are blistered. It got a little loose in the center of the racetrack, probably gave up a little bit.
But that was enough of a run to really give you a feeling for this new car.
Oh, yeah, the car feels nice. It goes nice and straight. Does kind of like you tell it to.
The final round of Top Fuel Eliminator at the Fram Southern Nationals at Atlanta was a rematch of the Winston Invitational just a couple of weeks earlier. It was Joe Amato racing against Don Prudhomme. Amato had qualified 4th at a 4.92 and held lane choice in the final, but Prudhomme was not to be counted out in the performance department. He had run a 4.88, a 4.87, and a 4.88, giving rise to the thought that Prudhomme could prevail.
That's right. After failing to qualify at Pomona, Prudhomme needed this win, and he got it. You saw him drive around on the right-hand side on fire. the winner. Well, Don Perdone gives a whole new meaning to the old phrase, going out in a blaze of glory. She was a lit, man. She was a glow.
Man, I could tell that baby was in big trouble behind me there. It shook real bad through the middle, and I thought that's over for me, and then it hooked up, and it hurt the engine when it did it then, and I just hung with it, and I didn't see Joe at the end. That's all I do.
Scott Jeffreyon was beginning to adapt to the Dodge Daytona very well. He had qualified only in the number 12 spot at a 7:30, but coming into the final round, he held lane choice. A 7:18 for the Dodge compared to the 7:21 for Warren Johnson's second car. WJ and crew over to work on Don Beverly's Oldsmobile Cutlass.
And for WJ, this is just one of the benefits of running a two-car team. Not only do you test twice as much, but if you happen to go out, you got another car in there that maybe can take out the stiffest competitor, Scott Jeffreyon.
And you got a thrill-a-minute ride as you were on board with Scott Jeffreyon watching Don Beverly streak across the finish line for his title. 7:20, 191 his speed.
1986 to 1992. Now that's a dry spell.
How long is that, Steve? That's a long time, and I tell you, I'm just so happy for Kurt Johnson, for Warren, for Greg Anderson, for Big Dave, for Gordy, for all the people involved. But I tell you what, I want to really thank all the people at Oldsmobile that stuck behind Don Beverly for all these years, and I'm going to dedicate this to all the people in Lansing, Michigan, and I'm very happy.
Well put. Congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
Your Pro Stock champion, Don Beverly.
As Don Beverly and all those folks he mentioned, including everybody in Lansing, Michigan, began to celebrate his win at Atlanta, everybody else knew it was the month of May and time to move to Memphis, Tennessee for Memphis in May and the Goodies Mid-South Nationals. It was in qualifying that Scott Coletta had himself a bit of a headache. His top fuel dragster neared the finish line, the engine exploded, and then the troubles really set in for the youngster. Coletta's car continued to burn down through the shutdown area. He fought for control, was able to keep it off the guardrail. The heat eventually blowing the rear tires. Coletta bringing the car to a safe stop.
Well, Scott Coletta, you okay?
Oh, yeah. It's nothing compared to funny cars.
Top Fuel Racing brings out the beast in everybody.
That's right. Put the motor behind them, and they get a little bit cocky, don't they? Joe Amato was up against Corey Mack in round number 2. Amato still stinging from that final round loss to Don Perdone at Atlanta. He appeared to have this one in hand. A huge top-end surge from Corey Mack. Pulled it out.
Oh, I can only tell you, man. We got out there, started shaking, and I was going to smoke tire. I backpedaled it. Joe went ahead of me a little bit. I stayed in it, and she came through, man. I don't know what happened, but he slowed down a little bit, and I got by him.
With Amato out of competition, Kenny Bernstein had the opportunity to put some distance between himself and the rest of the field in the points chase. But it was not to be as he went up in smoke, and you watched Michael Brotherton streak to the finish line and take the win at a 5-flat, 288-mile-an-hour speed.
That 5-flat on this racetrack at this time of the day is real good. That's a real competitive number. I think that was low, so that'll give us lane choice. Here we go.
Indeed, he has lane choice. 2 first-time finalists will go at it.
And here we went to the final round of Top Fuel at the Goodies Mid-South Nationals at Memphis. Michael Brotherton against Corey McLenithan. And it was here that Corey Mack needed to do well. This is an independent team. Needed every bit of funding they could get. He needed this victory.
Absolutely. And what a fun final round. Neither driver had ever been in this situation before. So they were totally equal as far as that kind of pressure. Car owner Darrell Gwynn looked on, very possibly putting himself in that driver's seat with Michael Brotherton, trying to mentally do anything he could to help win Brotherton's first ever final round.
If he could have given Michael some advice, he would have said, leave a little quicker, because Corey Mack got the advantage off the starting line, ran a surprising 497 and 294 to take his first ever title.
You know, just getting to the final, and then with Darrell and Michael Brotherton, I mean, they're a super team, and we were just both happy to be there together. Me and Darrell, good friends. And I can't tell you, I mean, I guarantee you my mom and my grandma are crying their head off. My dad's probably still jumping up on top of the van.
In the semifinal round of Funny Car Eliminator, John Force had a substantial lead on the rest of the field, but Al Hoffman in the blower drive service Dodge was definitely becoming a threat. This was an event, though, that John Force would long remember.
Watch very carefully the car in the far lane. This may be the closest drag racing will ever come to the crash of the Hindenburg.
And what would you think John Force had to say?
Bitching, huh? Is this live?
Close enough.
Sorry, Hoffman, we got you covered, buddy.
I was more worried about you than you were, damn it.
Don't be cutting into my time, son.
He zealously guards his television time, that John Force, who lost this race to Hoffman, but it's Force who will get all of the replays. How about 3 or 4 days?
His problems started just before the finish line. The car lit off just after he passed the end of the quarter mile. The heat of the fire exploded the rear tires, which in turn demolished the body.
Well, Force has had many fires, but he's never hit anything as he does in this incident. As the car crosses the racetrack in front of Hoffman and slams into the wall, Force would later say right there he saw Elvis.
You know, Steve, I have never known any race driver ever to be able to deal with adversity as well as John Force. He made like a farmer down here in the end of the racetrack, plowing a new furrow across the field.
And Dave, only John Force would do a defeat lap in front of the crowd.
Steve, Al Hoffman's victory over John Force propelled him into the final round where his opponent would be Whit Bazemore, making his first ever championship round appearance.
Now, Al Hoffman had gone winless so far this season. He had won 2 races the previous year and had never been beaten in a final round. And that streak continued. Thanks in many ways to his crew chief, Tom Anderson, Al Hoffman never beats himself.
He's always right there. I mean, I got to hand this whole race to Tommy Anderson. I mean, I don't know what it ran that time. I would say it was probably mid-30s. So.
Who cares?
Yeah, but he's just done an incredible job all weekend. He really made it happen.
Again, congratulations, Al. A great job.
The first win of 1992 for Al Hoffman in what would prove to be his best year ever. This was the second final round appearance, second consecutive final round appearance for Scott Jeffreyon here in Memphis. He faced off against the Oldsmobile of Warren Johnson. Jeffreyon had yet to win an NHRA national event coming into this final round appearance. The advantage off the starting line, all WJ. Again, handling problems for Jeffreyon. He slowed. Johnson did not. WJ the champ.
This thing won just because the crew did everything perfect today.
And so did you. A 4-1 light, a 722 as a parting shot.
Oh, low ET to me, too.
You got it. And worth 50 Winston points. Brock, back to you.
Brock, back to you. This is Dave, Steve-O, and that's Warren Johnson, your champion in Memphis. We head next to Columbus, Ohio, and the Oldsmobile Spring Nationals.
Well, of course I said Brock. That interview was originally aired live on TNN, and Brock Yates is part of our dynamic broadcast crew. Anyway, Dave, let's pick up the action with Pro Stock Round 2 in Columbus.
And Steve, once again, it was Warren Johnson against Jerry Ekman, Greg Anderson. Here shown working on WJ's Oldsmobile, getting it ready for the challenge by Ekman. Here the Ekman team reworking the clutch on the Pontiac. Coming into this race, Ekman held a 450-point-plus lead over Warren Johnson. WJ beginning to whittle away at that lead at this point in the season. Ekman got the slight advantage off the line in this second round race, but it grew to a big one as Warren Johnson had problems. He was philosophical about the loss.
Yeah, we just kind of tiptoed over the wrong edge on that thing. Like I said, this track's just a little bit tricky, and we were trying to be a little cautious, and apparently we just went over the edge just a little bit.
Were you afraid of losing control of the car or what?
It started shaking violently, so I just shut her down right away because I didn't, want to have anything. The race is basically lost when it starts to shake that hard that early.
See you in Montreal.
Okay, Steve.
The win by Ekman continued to extend his lead in the Winston points chase. Jerry came over to offer his condolences to Warren Johnson as the final round of Pro Stock at Columbus was an Oldsmobile versus Pontiac battle. This time the Cutlass driven by Larry Morgan.
And it was the first final round appearance for Morgan in 1992. Ekman had lane choice. He didn't against Johnson, and he took the opposite side of the racetrack where Warren had problems. Ekman had no problems whatsoever. They left White together, and Jerry trained Lance Morgan to win it at 7:29.
I'll tell you, we went into a little slump mid-season. It looks like we're back. We got a tough team here. You know, it's not just me, it's the team. We don't always run the best, but my team gets this car down these tough conditions and tough tracks, and I'm so proud to drive this Pennzoil Pontiac. We're great to be here as a winner again.
Ekman's victory extended his Winston points lead to 1,048 points after Columbus, followed by W.J. Scott Jeffrey on in third. Then comes Larry Morgan and Don Beverly.
In round one, we saw Jim Epler in an unfamiliar car to him, the Johnny West machine. Epler was still, well, pretty strong in the point standings. He parked his own car for financial reasons and decided, well, let's team up with Johnny West to see if we can't preserve something. He couldn't have met a tougher opponent in round number two than the record holder, Cruz Pendragon. Pendragon dazzled us with performance, but it's Epler who got the attention of NHRA Safety Safari, a huge fire.
Epler got the parachutes out as the fire burned itself down, and the Safety Safari crew rolled to the scene, instantly hitting the car with the fire extinguishing fluid. Epler was able to climb out unharmed.
Strictly precautionary, but Jim Epler is in the ambulance. How do you feel?
Oh, I feel fine. The fire went right out. Might have got a little bit of smoke, but I think I'm okay.
Good job at driving. Getting it stopped is the most important thing.
Yes, definitely the most important, but the guys are right on it and put the fire out, so I think we kept it to a minimum.
John Force at the wheel of the Castrol Oldsmobile came up against his young nemesis, Del Worsham, at the wheel of the Worsham family Cutlass. Once again, the 22-year-old squared off against the Winston Jam here in round number two, and he prevailed as Force just overpowered the racetrack up in smoke.
John obviously overpowered the racetrack a bit. Were you trying to run the kind of numbers that Pendragon has been running? Did that have any part in it at all?
Yeah, we did. We were watching the track first. We thought, pull it back a little bit, Steve, and then he ran that 21, so we thought it must be good. And you're looking at racing him next round and trying to get lane choice very, very crucial here. And we shot our shot and we missed it. But this is a new car, and it's done well since the crash at Memphis, so we're happy with it, and it'll come around.
John.
Certainly not the best of seasons thus far for John Force.
But a good one for Al Hoffman because of this man, Tom Anderson, who wrenched his car to 80-plus runs with no serious mechanical problems. Unheard of with today's funny car. And of course, it would be Al Hoffman against Cruz Pendragon, and they had a special guest, to say the least, in the McDonald's pits, Ed Renzi, the CEO and president of McDonald's, in there lending a hand. I mean, both hands, Dave.
Working hard, getting the fiberglass body repaired to meet in the final against Al Hoffman. But all that work went away right at the starting line as Cruz Pendragon left too early. The dominant car in competition out by virtue of a red light, and Al Hoffman kept his string intact, never losing a final round race.
And it was bedlam, Dave, at the far end. I was down there. Anytime this team can win over $30,000, well, the happiness is well-deserved as they need that kind of cash. And Tom Anderson isn't even a full-time crew chief and gets this job done.
Hoffman's victory solidified him third in the Winston chase. Connie Coletta made a very rare final round appearance at Columbus. His competition was Don Prudhomme. Steve talked to Connie before the run.
You historians out there will remember the last time Connie Coletta won a national event was right here at Columbus, Ohio, back in 1986, in kind of a strange final, Connie, against Joe Amato. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I sure do. We pulled up the starting line, did a burnout, and backed on up, and I stepped on the throttle when the light turned green, and Joe just kept on sitting there. And after a month or so, they admitted to the fact they forgot to put oil in the motor.
So it had no oil pressure.
No oil pressure.
Now, do you realize you're the only one that can keep the streak of non-repeat winners alive? Everybody else in the Final Four has won.
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Well, can you do anything about it?
We're going to try. I mean, that's all you can do in this game. Maybe a little bit of luck, and it might happen.
We'll be watching. Thanks.
Okay, Steve.
Well, in the final round against Don Prudhomme, Coletta's luck turned just as sour as his engine did. Problems right off the starting line, handed it to Prudhomme, who blasted through at a 498.
Don Prudhomme has won the Spring Nationals, but I think maybe he moved first on you.
Well, he sure did, yeah. Well, you know, Coletta's tough up there, and regardless of age or whatever you want to call it, I think we're the two oldest finalists in a while. But, you know, it's just a pleasure to race him. We haven't done this since 1965. We used to match race.
This was the first repeat win of the season in Top Fuel, and it vaulted Don Prudhomme into the top 5 in the Winston points chase. North of the border was the location of the next NHRA Winston Championship Series event, and it was Montreal, Canada, a magnificent Sanair facility for the Le Grand National Molson.
Well, it was a magnificent weekend for all of us that didn't own a top field dragster. For Eddie Hill, it's one he would rather forget. He qualified number 4 to 5:02, but really exploded a lot of parts. Hard on his crew chief, Fuzzy Carter, hard on the whole team, because they run this operation with a minimum budget. Here was that top field qualifying run of Eddie Hill. He nukes it right there.
A huge amount of flame billowing out of the left-hand side of the engine. That in turn blows the tire. Down on the rim goes Eddie Hill. The parachute's off, but he brings the car to a straight, safe stop.
Well, they call Eddie Hill the thrill, and that has to rank right up there.
Well, I try not to thrill him like that, but I guess a little of that goes along with it. What do we turn?
5 flat, low elapsed time track record.
All right, that's what we needed. All right, I'd blow another tire for that.
The final round appearance by Kenny Bernstein gave him some hope that he could make up some points ground on Joe Amato, who had gone out in round 2.
Kenny, we know your car can run with anybody now. What about you? You've been a little under the weather.
Yeah, I'm a little bit puny this week. Evidently, last couple of days I've been catching a little touch of the flu, but let me tell you, it doesn't matter when you get in there, strap up and turn the motor on. You forget about all that stuff real fast.
Bernstein's final round opponent, Don Prudhomme, had defeated Eddie Hill in the semifinals, who in turn had whipped up on Joe Amato in round 2.
Don, it's been a hot, hard day. Fatigue can be a factor in this sport.
Yeah, we're not running 500 miles, and I was in Michigan last weekend, and I was talking with Harry Gant, who's a buddy of mine, and he said, "Well, how come you guys get out of the car?" You're, and he was kind of making fun out of it in a way, but you know, it just kind of takes your breath away. It's something that one has to experience to really appreciate, you know, the G-force that we get, and just, you know, basically you're holding your breath the whole quarter of a mile.
Bernstein and Prudhomme, a rematch of the race here in Montreal a year ago when Don Prudhomme took the victory, but this time it was to be Kenny Bernstein, the champion. 5:03 to a losing 5:06. The crew begins the celebration. And for Bernstein, a big advancement in the Winston points chase. And remember this, folks, Corey McLenathan did not go to Canada.
As John Forrest contemplated his final 4 race, he might well have been thinking, haven't these guys read the script? 92 was a cakewalk for my team. Well, not when this young man came on the scene. Now, this was a Ford kind of racetrack. Couldn't handle 5-teens or even 520s. Everybody thought, well, maybe that'll be the weak link with the Pedregon automobile. But not so. Going into the final 4, they'd run 539 with no tire smoke whatsoever. New crew chief Larry Meyer seemed on top of it until here when Forrest wins it. Don Garlitz was at the start.
I guess I have to say, when the chips are down, Austin, you know how to make it happen.
Well, I'll tell you, we've been struggling with a new combination here. We had some big problems at Memphis. We're really on the right track now. We've got it running smooth on the other end. A little help from Bernie Federley in that department and a few other friends. And we're on the way to a 3rd championship, I hope.
Force's final round opponent, Al Hoffman, was on a bit of a hot streak when he came to Montreal. He qualified number 1 after winning the Spring Nationals.
Al, you have had such great success in final rounds. Does that give you a little extra measure of confidence?
Yeah, we're pretty confident about this. I know John's got lane choice and he ran 38, but I think we can run as well, if not better. And, you know, if both lanes look pretty good, we can get through them. Tommy's real tricky on these type of tracks, so we're pretty confident.
Well, on this day, the racetrack out-tricked Tommy Anderson as our onboard cameras were riding with both Al Hoffman and John Force. Force pulled another great 5:30 out of the hat, 5:34 and 2:78 to take the win.
Well, John, he's been beaten now.
Yeah, well, we finally did, and got to give credit to Coyle and Bernie and the TAC crew. They did their job, and it was a good old racetrack. It cooled down, the air got good, and this old heap just got out. She humped, she picked the front end up, she trucked down through there. I'm excited.
In the pit area of Jim Yates, his wife Tony was hard at work on the Pontiac. They were to meet Bruce Allen in the finals of Pro Stock.
Jim Yates, how do you feel mentally, and how does your car feel mechanically?
I'll tell you, I'm psyched. I mean, we've had just an excellent day. Getting in the final is such a high. You know, it's something to really work for, and we're happy to be there. And we drove good all day. We had a lot of close runs, so we're excited. The car's running good. I think we ought to be able to give Bruce a handful. He's running good, but you know, we're going to give it our shot, and hopefully we'll be there.
This final round appearance by Bruce Allen at the wheel of the Super Shop Rare and Morrison Chevy Lumina was possibly the high point of the season thus far.
Bruce Allen, your opponent is up for the game. How about you?
Me too. Jim Yates, he's a good guy, good racer. He'll be ready, and so will we.
You dare change this car? It ran so well.
We probably won't do too much, just a few little minor changes, just little tweaks on it, more or less.
Bruce Allen had the quicker elapsed time in his winning effort in the semifinal round. That gave him the lane choice here in the championship encounter. He picked the lane nearest our cameras, but it all went for naught as Jim Yates got too anxious at the starting line. The red light indicating his disqualification. Bruce Allen ended a long dry spell with his first victory of the 1992 season. It was a relatively short distance from Montreal, Canada to Englishtown, New Jersey, and the running of the Mopar Parts Summer Nationals.
And everyone, Dave, was looking forward to the Saturday night qualifying session. And well, they should have, because when the sun went down, the numbers came out. Only Kenny Bernstein at this point had eclipsed the 300-mile-an-hour mark. If there were any naysayers out there, they certainly were silenced by what they saw at Old Bridge Township Raceway Park on one hot Saturday night. Bernstein was in the lane closest to the camera. And there it was again, 300.40 miles per hour.
All right, fantastic. Oh, I was hoping, and we were all hoping, especially Dale and Wes and the team. That's great. That's outstanding. We've been wanting to do this since Gainesville, believe me. Trying awful hard.
The euphoria of Saturday night did not spill over to Sunday as Bernstein smoked the tires in round one.
Well, Dale, I guess that is literally the difference between night and day.
Yeah, I don't understand it, Steve. The car is exactly like it was, and I mean, the track's pretty tight now, and we had it nice and soft leaving. It really shocked me to see it smoke the tires.
With Bernstein out, Joe Amato was the beneficiary, and he capitalized on it to the extreme, making it to the final round where he met Corey McLenithan. Remember, Corey Mack did not go to Canada because of financial reasons. And when they made the final round here at Englishtown, the entire Corey McLenithan team began to realize they could be an influence in the Winston points chase. It was Amato's victory as McLenithan had lots of problems. Amato winning the race with a 5:01 elapsed time.
And of course, his timing was perfect with Kenny Bernstein out round number one. A huge points harvest for Joe Amato towards what might be his 5th championship.
A very expensive final round loss for Corey McLenithan. In funny car competition, Chuck Etchels had disposed of the hottest car on the circuit, Cruz Pendragon, using a hole shot in the semifinals.
Well, Del Worsham well remembered the final in Atlanta, so he took John Force out in the semifinals with the hole shot. And remember, coming into this race, Worsham was the defending champion, won it under the lights in 1991 on a hot Sunday night.
1 year before that, Chuck Etchels had taken home the championship here at Englishtown, and on this day, he was absolutely dominant. 5:24, his speed, 279.
Chuck, congratulations. It's a great victory here. You really earned this one.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Really appreciate it. Thank everybody at Diamond P for the great job they do.
See you in Denver in 2 weeks. That's a tough race on that mountain.
Never been there, but Maynard has, and I think he won, so we'll be ready.
Chuck's crew chief Maynard Yanks was the head wrench for Bruce Larson when he won the Winston Crown in '89.
The big story in Pro Stock was points leader Jerry Ekman. He came into the final qualifying session not in the 16-car field. This was the do-or-die effort at Raceway Park for Jerry Ekman. The tires shook, chattered out of the lane. Ekman would not qualify. The disaster of the moment was reflected on car owner Bill Orndorff's face. You have a 1,000-point lead. It's a good thing.
Well, we've lost 50 of it because there's somebody's going to have low ET. I think it's Warren. I don't think that'll be beat. So maybe we'll get some breaks for tomorrow's race. You never know.
This is the second week in a row, second race in a row. You really haven't run that well.
No, we haven't. We just haven't been able to figure out this clutch, this surface. We ran good from the 330 on. We ran good, but up to the 330, we haven't been able to figure it out.
Except for a new national record, Warren Johnson earned every point he could at the Englishtown event. He came into the final round with the lane choice over Ricky Smith. but it was the driver of the Pontiac that prevailed in the starting line wars. Watch the advantage that Ricky in the far lane got over Warren Johnson. A huge hole shot, and he made it almost pay off for him. At the finish line, Johnson had the lead. Ricky Smith lost the clutch. That's where all the sparks came from. And Warren Johnson walked over to offer his congratulations and condolences to Ricky Smith, both drivers with a smile on their face. The Pro Stock points for the first time this season found Warren Johnson in the lead, with Ekman now second, followed by Jeffrey on Allen and Morgan.
From the sea level humidity of New Jersey, NHRA's traveling acceleration show headed west for a 3-race swing. The first stop on Thunder Mountain, Vandermeer Speedway, all 7,000 feet of it. And you think Warren Johnson was dominant at Englishtown in the final of Pro Stock? At Vandermeer, it was an all Warren Johnson affair.
WJ, of course, at the wheel of his own AC Delta Oldsmobile, while the car he owned, but his lease to Don Beverly, was in the lane beside him.
Kurt, any mixed emotions preparing a race car for Don to beat your very own dad?
Oh, not at all, Steve. We're just going to go out there and give him everything we can, just like racing somebody else out there, like Jerry Ekman or Bob Glidden or anybody.
You can really do that?
Oh, yeah.
When you talk to Warren Johnson's crew chief, you got to talk to Warren Johnson. Your kid is down there trying to beat you.
Well, you're not really talking just to Warren Johnson. Greg Anderson has just as much to say so about this car running as myself. So between the two of us, we're working at beating those kids down the street.
Well, the question was answered once and for all. What would happen if they faced each other in the final round? It was Warren Johnson coming out on the short end of the stick on this day, as Don Beverly prevailed at the start and continued to hold the lead all the way through the finish line, taking the victory with a 7:73 elapsed time.
Don Beverly, a whole shot, did it, a 73 to a 72.
I tell you what, the car really got loose. You know, running Warren is so great. I want to give all the credit to this to the two teams. My team with Kurt Johnson, his team with Greg Anderson. To have two Oldsmobiles in the final, we both did our job, and we're very happy.
In funny car, what a flip-flop we saw. Cruz Pendragon barely qualified in the 15th position. Paul Smith, who usually is the one struggling, qualified number 2 at a 5:39, and they went head-to-head in round number 1.
That first round confrontation proved disastrous for Pendragon, as Smith and his crew celebrated that win. Cruz Pendragon was absolutely unconsolable down at the finish line.
You remember at Englishtown when Chuck Etchell said, "I've never been to Denver, but my crew chief Maynard Yates has and won"? Well, Maynard's experience paid off because the final was John Force versus Chuck Etchell. Force was the #1 qualifier by a huge distance. He dominated. Austin, so far you've had pretty close to a perfect weekend.
Well, I bet you, like within an hour, we'll finish it off as a perfect weekend, how things are looking. I'm really pleased with how things been going here this weekend, and racing up here on the mile's always been good for us.
Maynard, this is a real test of a crew chief, the Mountain and John Force.
Well, our tune-up hasn't been real great for the Mountain, but we're going to go after Force with everything we got.
And everything they had was not only outstanding performance, but Chuck Etchell's great driving. He got 0.07 of a second advantage over Force at the starting line, but he really didn't need it. He had the performance as well as Force went up in smoke. 5:51 is winning time at 269 miles an hour. And the celebration for Etchell started at the beginning and ended down in the shutdown area.
Now, in round 1 at Top Fuel, we saw one of the strangest races of this year or any other season. It involved Eddie Hill, who you may recall earlier in the year at Gainesville had set the record at a 480. He was up against Clayton Harris, a name from the early 70s, back in the sport, now a Colorado resident. Now, the picture will say it all here.
It was an absolute nightmare for both drivers. Both up in flames. Eddie Hill suffered the worst as the heat exploded the rear tires on his dragster. It came down on the rim as the safety safari crew pulled out on the track. Ursula Hill just had to sit down and put her head in her hands. Consoled by a crew member, Ursula was later to find out that Eddie got out of the car under his own power. He was okay. Clayton Harris was okay. But as we watched in replay, it was one of those incredible days on a racetrack on the Winston Championship Trail. First, it was Eddie Hill exploding into flame. Then quickly followed by Clayton Harris. Neither driver seriously injured.
Eddie, you probably were unaware you were on fire. You couldn't have been aware, so was Clayton Harris.
Now, I knew we both had troubles, but I didn't know how bad of troubles he had, and I knew I had a lot of trouble, especially when I got over in his lane down here in the shutdown area. I didn't know whether he was going to nail me or not, but fortunately, we didn't get together. That was a wild one there.
Apparently, a piece of debris punctured a tire.
Yeah, we hung the rods out of another engine. That's the third engine we fed that deal this weekend, and that about killed us budget-wise.
Glad to see you're okay.
Well, thank you. Yeah, at least I'm all right.
You okay, yours?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just glad he's okay.
The look on the Hills' faces tell it all. The emotions and the pressures of championship drag racing. In the final round of Top Fuel, it was Ed McCulloch at the wheel of the McDonald's dragster. He was up against Kenny Bernstein, who made it to the final round based on some outstanding performances, and he had another one in the championship as McCulloch went up in smoke and Bernstein took the title. From the high country of Colorado, the next move on the Winston Championship Trail was to the wine country. 1 week later, we were in Sonoma, California at Sears Point International Raceway for the Autolite Nationals.
And we told you earlier about a certain pattern that was starting to develop in the Top Fuel category. It's as if nobody wanted to win the Winston Championship and kept trying to give it away. You'd win a race one weekend, go to the next venue, and out first round. Would it continue at Sonoma? Well, Michael Brotherton and the Darrell Gwynn car certainly hope so, as he faced off with Kenny Bernstein.
Bernstein had qualified in the number 8 spot, Brotherton number 9. This was round number 1, and it was all Brotherton.
We've just been off all weekend here with the Budweiser King, and Dale and the guys have tried hard, but we just didn't get it done.
The final round of Top Fuel Eliminator, Ed McCulloch with his head wrench. Lee Beard looking on intently, challenged Don Prudhomme. McCulloch had the lane choice coming into this round. A 497 versus a 498. It proved to be on paper a very close race, and in reality was just about as good.
And it was McCulloch's second final round consecutively on the mountain and then down here in Sonoma, California, north of San Francisco. The ace, runner-up again, this time to the Snake.
He's passed Pat Austin in the points and moved in on Bernstein and Amato.
Well, that's what's important. That's why we're here, you know. But, you know, this game...
You know, races like that are why you're here.
That's right. I've been doing this a long time, man, and, you know, it never gets dull, trust me.
The champ at the Autolite Nationals.
A congratulatory guest from Don's wife, Lynn, as he certainly does enjoy his victories.
And what a funny car final round. Cruz Pedregon against John Force. You just saw the spent motor on the Macadam in the Sonoma pits. They had to change an engine in the Pedregon car just before going to the starting line against John Force. Was it a factor in the outcome? Well, it's hard to say. Cruz had run a 526 and a 543 and a 543 in the first 3 rounds. Force, he was showing off, having a good time. The old confidence was back.
Force was in the near lane. He got the advantage at the starting line, and Pedregon had a great run going until something went wrong and the car nosed over just before the lights. Force nipped in and took the victory. 5:32 was his winning time.
Boy, what was going on there, John?
I don't even know, Steve. I don't know it. I didn't even know. He says I won. I don't even know. I mean, I'm seeing the Big M all the way down to this whole heap is flying, and all of a sudden he's out of it. And well, it's okay then. We did it. That's it. It's a payday here at Sears Point.
For a moment there, we wondered if John Force was going to be at a loss for words, but once he got the word that he was the winner, no question about it.
Well, Warren Johnson and Ricky Smith comprised the final round in Pro Stock. Ricky Smith, his 3rd final of the year, still winless in NHRA national event competition. Would this be the day the STP team would finally celebrate?
Here at Sears Point, that AC Delco Oldsmobile of Warren Johnson proved to be the most powerful Pro Stocker in existence as they blasted out a speed mark at over 194.5 miles an hour. On the race itself, he got the advantage at the start, and Warren Johnson, by a train length, had the victory, a 7:20 at 191.
Well, a 720 caps off a magnificent weekend, Warren.
Well, the 20 was close, but no cigar there, but we won the race. That's the first, most important thing here. The AC Delco Oldsmobile came through it. I'm so happy for all our guys. We have been busting our butts for about the last 6 months trying to get this thing to run quick round after round, and it's finally starting to show.
And maybe a Winston Championship around the corner.
We'll work on this round by round business first, and then we'll worry about the championship later.
You got all the money, you got all the points, and almost backed up the record. Sorry you missed that.
Well, that's the way it goes, but we won. That's what we came here to do.
I have a feeling he'll get that record before the year is out.
While Warren Johnson wasn't considering himself a contender for the points championship at this stage, everybody else in drag racing was. From Sonoma, for the third week in a row, we were on a racetrack, this time in the shadow of magnificent Mount Rainier.
And if you thought that top fuel race between Eddie Hill and Clayton Harris was pretty weird in Denver, watch this final qualifying run of Michael Brotherton. This was on Saturday afternoon. He lost traction. Mike tried to lift. The throttle stuck. The car got on its side and kind of like a pinball careened between the walls.
Then cutting lazy donuts out in the middle of the racetrack, the engine still running. Michael Brotherton was backed into the wall and it stopped.
Well, I don't know what to say, Steve. I mean,
throttle hang open possibly?
Yeah, these things, the fuel pressure's real tricky on them, and a little bit happened once before in Gainesville, and when you're that close to the starting line, before the high speeds bleed the fuel off, the pressure's way up, and when it zings the tires like that, the fuel pressure goes even higher. So when you lift off the pedal, it don't want to follow your foot, and then things go downhill from there. So
you're okay?
We're fine. We're fine, yeah.
Same cannot be said for the race car.
The question was, could that car be repaired in time for the final eliminations the next day? With all the damage, the crew took it back to the pits, assessed what needed to be done, worked all night long, and on Sunday morning in Seattle, it was a beehive of activity to get the car finished.
Well, Jerry, this comes under the heading with a little help from your friends.
Well, I'd say so. We had Hedman and Uhara and everybody else here. Looks like we're going to make it.
Has anybody had any sleep on this day?
Oh, probably the old guys got a little bit, but the young guys didn't.
Well, the team was certainly pumped up because in round number one, their competition, Robert Reel, felt the sting of the Darrell Gwynn-owned dragster. Michael Brotherton took the victory.
For a lot of people that worked all night, you just get them a big payoff.
Yeah, we needed that win. We needed another computer tape with our regular setup on. We tested some fuel pump stuff yesterday and burned it up. So that's what we needed to get a win light and a computer tape. So here we go.
Then in round number two, Mike Brotherton came up against Shelly Anderson. It was a whole shot victory by Brotherton as Shelly ran 0.02 of a second quicker in elapsed time.
We have tried so hard all year long. We just haven't gotten any breaks, and we sure been spending a lot of Darrell's money. And I mean, everybody's just up, even though we worked all night. I mean, we want to win this drag race.
Well, Joe Amato with Kenny Bernstein out also wanted badly to win this drag race, but they qualified only 11th in a 499. Not a good number for them. Tim Richards, the crew chief, the general, obviously in a very crappy mood on the starting line in round number two, but they faced off with Eddie Hill. Richards was furious at the way the car was lined up on the starting line. He just was not a happy camper all weekend long, and that really upset him. Amato was out.
I believe they call this a missed opportunity.
Well, we've been missing a lot lately, but we're still in contention. You know, just have to take them as they go and see what happens at the end.
The Michael Brotherton march at Seattle continued in the semifinal round. This time his victim was Corey McLenathan. The rebuilt race car performed to perfection. A 496 was his elapsed time on this win at a speed of 286 miles an hour. And after an entire night of work, the Darrell Gwynn team was in the final round.
And you can tell by crew chief Ken Finney, this team had a purpose.
Eddie and Ersie Hill had a purpose as well to try to win this race, but this was one of those dream stories for the Darrell Gwynn team. After working all night long, they won it all. Michael Brotherton crossed the finish line, the champion, winning his first ever NHRA national event.
I tell you, it feels good. Not me, the crew and the owner of this car, Darrell Gwynn, and everybody that had faith in me. I mean, we were on our head twice this year, and when we left last night, I told him we were going to fix it and win this thing. And
what a gritty performance by everybody.
Man, I'll tell you, we're a little tired, and my wife Beth couldn't make it, but believe me, we pulled this one out. And I want to say thanks to the safety safari. They were on top of that yesterday, and that makes me feel real good.
Truly an emotional moment came in the shutdown area at Seattle International Raceway.
Put it there, man. Way to go.
Well, the funny car category didn't lack for mayhem either, Dave McClellan, especially in round number 2 when the 16th qualifier, Gordon Mineo, came up against the surprising, again, Paul Smith, who had qualified number 9 right in the middle of the pack. But that's not the story. Mineo in the near lane is.
A huge fireball was the Pontiac Trans Am as Mineo was fighting to regain control. He kept it off of the guardrail, but the fire did not diminish. As he brought the car to a stop, the safety safari crew was quickly on the scene, but even quicker than that, the emergency hatch was coming open, indicating that Gordon Mineo was trying to get out of the car. He jumped out into the arms of the safari crew and was uninjured.
Well, that escape hatch, now we know why they're in there.
I tell you what, if you just stop and think and you use your head in there, undo your belts, undo your safety hatch, come on out.
Don't panic.
Don't panic, most people do.
Well, Gordon Mineo was happy that he came out of that blazing inferno A-OK. Al Hoffman was in the far lane of the track, and he was happy as he could be to defeat Paul Smith for the Seattle Funny Car Crown. In Pro Stock, it was Mark Powick for the 2nd time this season with a hoop and a holler celebrating his victory at Seattle, taking the Pro Stock Championship.
Well, from the Pacific Ocean, we set sail for the land of 10,000 lakes. Brainerd International Raceway, Brainerd, Minnesota, for the Champion Auto Stores Nationals. And in Pro Stock, well, the semifinal round was quite interesting, especially to Ford fans. Bob Glidden, who had not been having a good year, had to change engines after the 2nd round. He was in tough, especially going up against Warren Johnson, and Bob knew it.
At this point of the season, Warren Johnson was the dominant force in Pro Stock. He qualified in the number 2 spot at a 7:26. Had the lane choice here over Bob Glidden with a 7:34 to a 7:36 for the Ford. But it was the whole shot advantage by Glidden that proved to be the margin of victory in this race. As the Glidden family cheered him on, Bob won the race over WJ.
What a whole shot victory. Great job.
You know, things happen that way sometimes when you try really hard, Steve, and Lord knows we've been trying hard. We just haven't done a very good job.
You were both trying hard on the starting line there.
Well, you know, we broke an engine. He knew what we were up against. I would have sat there till the sun fell out of the sky. I wasn't going to stay. I mean, he was just screwing himself.
Gee, Bob, why don't you tell it like it is?
Yeah, I hate it when he sugarcoats it like that. This was the time I personally thought that Scott Jeffrian was gonna get his first national event win in the Dodge. He qualified number 1. He came up against Glidden. He had better numbers all day long. Was I right? Was I wrong? Well, you'll know in about 7 seconds.
I already know, Steve, you were dead wrong as Bob Glidden won his first race of the season. In fact, the first since early a year ago. As Rusty Glidden celebrates, Bob Glidden the champion.
Bob, it's been a while, and this win over the hard-charging Dodge is especially sweet.
Any of them today, you know, Steve, it's been more than a year since we won a race.
That was a great final.
Well, it was a good race, but just a race win of any kind, even a round win, is good for us today.
Mark Oswald may not have made much of a dent in the Winston Funny Car chase throughout this season, but he certainly gave a big lift to the hopes of Cruz Pedregon. It was Oswald who put Force out in round number 2 competition and then went on to race Pedregon in the championship round. Pedregon had the lane choice with a 5:33 in the previous semifinal round of action. He had lined up in the lane furthest from the camera.
Larry Meyer had a handle on this race car. He did not overpower the track as Mark Oswald did. Pedregon wins it, number 2 for the season.
Cruz Pedregon, he smoked the tires, and you were long gone at 525. Great job.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, we've been finessing it a little bit. You know, we've been running 30s here a lot slower than our qualifying time, but 525 is good for a tricky track like this Brainerd track.
In 2 weeks at Indianapolis, you get your first shot on a funny car at the biggest dragster of them all, the U.S. Nationals.
You know, the Winston Championship is the big carrot at the end of the stick, but Indy it means a lot, and the Big Bud Shootout for funny cars, it's 2 races in one. We're really looking forward to that, and it's nice to go into that race with momentum.
Kenny Bernstein and Dale Armstrong came to the starting line together in round number 3, the semifinals of Top Fuel Eliminator. Their competition was to beat Joe Amato. Amato and his team Valvoline entry, being closely checked by the crew, headed by Tim Richards. The thumbs up sign, everything's okay. They brought the car to the starting line in one of the more important races between the 2 contenders for the Winston title. At first, it looked like it was all Bernstein, but Amato went on to win.
Kenny, you were off the mark, Bruce. It looked like maybe you had it.
Yeah, I thought we were going to do okay. We really run good all weekend. I thought it was going to be ours, but we're just jinxed against Amato right now. It's a tough day, and we'll find out what was wrong. It's just a shame it shut off. I think we had him covered.
Tough emotionally and mechanically.
Well, it is. You know, the points lead will go away now. We were only 270 points ahead of him. If he goes another round, we're ahead, so we're dead.
What a range of emotions. A few races ago, the euphoria of 300 miles an hour. Now the despair of losing the points lead.
One of the Top Fuel final, Eddie Hill. He wasn't paying any attention to Winston points. He just wanted to turn his season around. He won the Gator Nationals and had nothing but bum luck. He was defeated in the final the previous week in Sonoma, California. Eddie and the team needed the prize money, and they needed the lift that a win at Brainerd would give them. Oh, a huge explosion for Eddie Hill. The car only moved a few feet. Amato with the points lead out of Brainerd. Amato, the champion. He's won this race before, and when he did, he won Indy.
While Tim Richards and crew celebrated, Fuzzy Carter and his minions checked over the damage caused by the blower explosion. Eddie Hill was disappointed, but Amato was happy.
Joe Amato wins a crucial drag race in his quest for a 5th Winston Championship. Buddy, this may be the one, when we look back, you had to win.
Well, I hope so. We had enough chances all year, you know, as well as I do, but we hung tough. You know, we had a tough weekend, qualifying and all. The car, we broke a rear end and blew the engine and the clutch, and my guys just hung tough. They've been working tough all weekend, and, you know, Bernstein gave us a chance. You know, them guys are tough. They're a good, clean class act, and all the other guys are right there, and Eddie was a tough car. But for Team Valvoline and Joe Amato and all my fans, this is one for you guys.
Joe Amato almost breaking up from the emotion of the moment at Brainerd. It was just a short trip down the road to Indianapolis, Indiana, and the U.S. Nationals, but a big jump in prestige of the event. The biggest of them all, the U.S. Nationals. And as tradition has it, on Sunday of Labor Day weekend, it is the running of the Big Bud Shootout, pitting these drivers, the 8 best funny car racers in the world that had qualified for this year's running of the event. In the semifinal round of the Big Bud Shootout, John Force was to come up against his nemesis, Cruz Pedregon.
There were no Winston points up for grabs. You'd never know that if you could have looked in John Force's eyes when he got on that car. His motivation was to rip Cruz Pedregon's throat out, to break his spirit for the Monday eliminations to come.
You were on board with John Force as he powered ahead of Pedregon and launched himself into the Big Bud Shootout finals.
John, you said earlier, I'll burn it if I have to, and you almost did.
We really did, Steve. It's really exciting. We're talking career moves here. Cruz is trying to make one, and I told Coyle, don't care what it takes, what's the price, put her down there. But it shows you this onboard stuff, this fire equipment, this stuff worked. I'm really excited about it. One button, the fire was out, and I'm out of the car, and I just love it this way.
Yeah, the motor is terminal.
Motor's junk, but life moves on from here. Money's easy. All my people that put in the bucks here, all the major corporates, you know who they are. I want to thank them because it's your bucks I'm spending the days, boys.
A lot of work in this pit.
Steve, he spent a few as a result of that run. The damage, as you noted, absolutely terminal. But that did not prevent him from getting the Castro Olds prepared for the final round race against Al Hoffman.
And the prize, $50,000. Force had won it twice before. He knew what it was like to accept that big check from Budweiser, make that big deposit. Al Hoffman, $50,000 would be his biggest payday ever. There were whole seasons Al Hoffman didn't have $50,000 in cash flow.
Both cars went up in smoke. Hoffman was able to recover and keep it in his lane. Force crossed the center line, disqualified himself. Helen Hoffman and their crew chief, Tom Anderson, celebrated.
Did you see John at all?
I never seen him. That's why I kept pedaling the thing out there, and I didn't care if it blew up, caught on fire, or what. We were going through the lights first.
And he crossed the center line out of your vision.
Thank God.
You almost did.
I came close, but it'd been upside down before I crossed it.
Talking like John Forrest. Well, the following day, on Monday, Labor Day, the Pro Stock Final featured Larry Morgan in the final round for the 4th consecutive year. However, relegated to runner-up in the 2 previous years. He would be up against, well, the man having the dream season, Mr. Warren Johnson. Johnson qualified number 2 at a 7:22. Morgan had qualified number 8, but that doesn't matter much, Mac, when you get to the final round. Forget that qualifying stuff.
Certainly does not. As they approached the starting line, the concentration by both drivers was dedicated to one thing, getting a good reaction time, and Larry Morgan proved to be the master of that. He got off the starting line first, but was unable to run the number as Warren Johnson came from behind and took the win at the biggest race of the year.
You don't see a lot of emotion out of Warren Johnson, but when you win Indy, a statue becomes animated. Great job.
Oh, Indy, I mean, this is everything that you work for all year long, including the championship. We're not counting on a championship yet, but Indy, I mean, this is the race to win.
What a great race with Larry Morgan. Both off the line. You got a little bit of an edge.
I told you that this race is, everybody works their butts off. Everybody deserves to win, but unfortunately, only one person can win this thing.
And you did it. Congratulations again.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Finally, Warren Johnson showed a little bit of emotion in this 1992 season, coming after that big victory at Indy. Here is Del Worsham, the 22-year-old, up against the guy that picked up the $50,000 prize from Sunday, Al Hoffman at the wheel of the blower drive service Dodge.
And this was round number 2 competition. Hoffman had run a very consistent 5:20 last time in round 1 and seemed destined to do well here.
But it was a red light start for Hoffman, disqualified him, and Worsham took the victory.
Maybe too fine a hair trigger, Al, a red light.
Yeah, well, I guess when you're here at Indy racing for all this money and against Del Worsham, the kid leaves, you know, I know he's going to have like a 450 light. Yeah, you got to, I wasn't taking a shot at the tree, but it got me.
The victory in round 2 moved Worsham into the semifinals, where who else but John Forrest was in the opposite lane.
And John Forrest knows exactly what Al Hoffman was talking about. This kid is probably worth 2 or 3 hundredths right off the starting line.
In this case, it was Worsham in the near lane, getting nearly 500ths of a second advantage over Forrest. As Forrest smoked the tires, Worsham took the victory, added to John's woes.
John, a long, tough weekend has come to a disappointing close.
The kid's a good kid. I'm just hot. That was a big one. I wanted it. We worked hard. We paid dearly for it, and I'm hot. It's
nothing you could have done.
Don't matter. Got to go back. Got to regroup. He ran a number. We didn't expect it, but our car just we've lost our consistency. We're in that 512. We're just going to keep pushing on that, and that's just drag racing. It's a long weekend for all my people at Castrol and Oldsmobile and Jolly Rancher, and that's just drag racing.
Indeed. Drag racing it is, and nobody knows it better than John Forrest.
For 2 seasons, John Forrest has had sweet dreams. Now he has a recurrent nightmare starring Cruz Pedregon in that red car.
The Pedregon crew, headed by Larry Meyer, had lots of work before their final round encounter with Del Worsham. They put a brand new motor in the Oldsmobile body creation as Meyer looked on intently. It was Pedregon coming to the starting line to race the youngster. Worsham got the advantage off the starting line, but went up in smoke, and Pedregon had won the biggest race of his career.
Chris Pedregon is a very emotional young man. I don't think this is going to take a lot of setup words for me, other than congratulations, my young friend.
Thanks. Thanks, Steve.
You polished it off with a 5:13, the best elapsed time of the day. What a way to finish.
Yeah. Well, I really owe it to the guys. You know, I need to get my chin up because my guys worked hard. Larry Meyer, in fact, even Larry Miner, car owner, pitching in. Even McDonald's president, Ed Renzi, Tom Dentese, everybody's pitching in. You know, those people, McDonald's people are just like a big family, and they enjoy working on the car. And all the guys, Chris, all the crew, this is the best crew around, and I'm just so happy for them. I struggle a little bit on my reaction times, but like any athlete, I just had an off day today, but I'm glad I pulled it through.
With his second victory in a row, Pedregon moved closer to John Forrest. Hoffman was third, followed by Worsham, and then Chuck Etchells rounded out the top 5 after Indy.
And in Top Fuel, Kenny Bernstein for the 3rd time in 92 stole everybody's thunder. By this time, the fans, whatever racetrack Kenny would visit, Kenny, are you gonna run 300? Even Bruce Larson, the new driver in Don Garland's car, was wondering, is he gonna run 300 against me? That's what this car was built for. Well, the answer, as Bruce soon found out, was absolutely yes. Well, the king of speed has just added another jewel to his crown. 301 miles an hour at Indianapolis.
Well, that's the one we wanted to do for Indy for sure. That's Steve. Dale West, they really stepped on the Budweiser King that time. We thought if the cloud cover would stay, we'd have a shot at it, but it ran awful good.
More importantly, #1 qualifier at 486.
That doesn't hurt either. We'll take it. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
With a smile on his face, Kenny Bernstein headed into eliminations as the #1 qualifier. A man that had been improving throughout the year was Ed McCulloch at the wheel of the Team McDonald's dragster. He qualified 13th at Indy. That put him in round #1 against the #4 qualifier, Joe Amato. Little did anyone know that this would be the last race for Tim Richards as Joe Amato's crew chief. They split right after this event. Here in round #1, it was all McCulloch as Amato smoked the tires right off the starting line, and the ace blasted through with a 4:89 elapsed time at 294 miles an hour.
Well, a two-time U.S. Nationals winner is out round 1. And, Joe, this is a weekend you'd just rather forget.
Yeah, Steve, it started off a little weak, and it ended up first round loser. You know, all we can pray now is somebody can take Bernstein out of the cars behind us, and we don't lose so much ground here.
Sorry, Joe.
Thank you.
Amato already beginning to assess his problems in the Winston points chase.
And Amato would not lose any more ground if Doug Herbert, 24 years of age, runner-up at the Phoenix race, could indeed take out Kenny Bernstein.
Bernstein fresh off of that 300-mile-an-hour run in qualifying had great hopes, but they all went for naught as Herbert ended up the winner.
Well, obviously a terrible time to have the performance fall off. You could have regained your points lead.
Yeah, we sure could have. It's a shame, but that's part of the racing. Dale and West, the guys worked real hard. It just shook real hard out there, Steve. I got off the throttle and got after before it knocked the tire loose, but it just wasn't enough.
We're not out here to get a suntan, and this sun is killing that racetrack.
Well, it is, but you know we're ready for that. We kind of anticipated. We made it soft and easy to run down through there, but it just was a little too much.
The youth of Doug Herbert came to the starting line in the Top Fuel final to match up against the experience of Ed McCulloch.
And Ed McCulloch really deserved this final round berth. Listen to these stats. Round 1, 489, followed by a 490, a 487. Herbert was in very, very tough here. His crew chief, Jim Brissett, gave him everything he had to try to run with McCulloch, the 5-time funny car champion here at IRP.
And as they crossed the finish line in this race, Ed McCulloch had picked up his first ever Top Fuel title in Indy.
McDonald's in the final, both cars winners. All right. Steve, I'm just proud as punch to have this car in here. Our entire crew, the whole gang, both teams worked really hard. You know, what can I say?
You haven't driven a better race all year.
Steve, I love this race.
You love this track?
I love this track. I mean, I feel so good that to be able to win my first Top Fuel race here at the U.S. Nationals, I'm really proud to be able to do that and to do it for Larry Minor and for McDonald's. And the U.S. Nationals is the biggest and the best of all time, and I love winning it.
By just 96 points, Joe Amato held on to the Winston points lead after Indy. Corey Mack was in third, followed by Prudhomme, Eddie Hill fifth, and Ed McCulloch moved up to #6 by virtue of his win.
From Hoosier country to Amish country in Pennsylvania, Maple Grove Raceway, one of the oldest tracks on the NHRA National Event Beat, hosted the Sunoco Keystone Nationals. And Dave, it may not be a super track as we know them today with all of the fancy seats and towers. The racetrack is none better.
That was proven by the performances in all 3 pro categories. Scott Jeffrion became the first racer ever into the 7.0 range in Pro Stock Eliminator. He did it on this qualifying run when he recorded a time of 7.099 at over 193. He later backed up that time for the national record. Don Garland's talked with him.
Warren Johnson runs 7:10, and Jeffrey On, you run 7:09.
It just feels so good for Mopar and the guys at Wayne County. There's a brand new motor. We've never run it. It was its maiden voyage, and we needed it for a place like this where the track conditions are ideal and the air's real good. So I'm just happy for the guys at Wayne County.
And there was a bolt of lightning in Top Fuel qualifying as well by the name of Corey McClanathan. The 29-year-old from Southern California. Watch him in the far lane. He became the first driver in NHRA history to penetrate the 470.
4.799.
Unbelievable. I'm just so ecstatic for my whole team and everybody. They worked so hard this year. I just hope our luck holds out. I mean, we're going to give these guys a chase for the points, national points. This is the only time I ever thought I had a chance to be a national champion, and we're really going to go for it.
Joe Amato went into eliminations at Maple Grove after separating from his crew chief of 20 years, Tim Richards.
Basically, it's a tough deal. I mean, it's just like a divorce. But we've been together. We've had some real good times. He's done a lot for me, and you know, but life goes on, I guess, and all we can do is put our energy forward and try and win the championship. And God knows it's going to be tough.
For Joe Amato, the man of the moment at Maple Grove was Jim Brissett, the crew chief for Doug Herbert. When they heard that Amato was crew chiefless, they called, offered everything they had, including their brain trust, to try to help Joe win a 5th Winston Championship. He had helped them earlier. They were paying back a due bill.
But Joe Amato ran up against an insurmountable object in the form of Eddie Hill, who defeated Joe in round 2.
I can't complain. The car ran good all weekend, and Doug Herbert and Jim Brissett and Tommy Grove did a good job. My crew did an outstanding job. They get a lot of credit for making this happen.
Well, Bernstein takes the points lead now.
Yeah, I know. We got to worry about Corey Mack over our shoulder, too. But it's not over yet. There's 3 races left, and we'll be back. Trust me.
But Kenny Bernstein went on to win the event over Eddie Hill and left with almost a 500-point lead. That was cause for a celebration. Now, on the funny car side of things, well, we got to talk about John Force again, Dave.
John qualified #1 at a 5.11 and ran up against Tom Hoover in the 2nd round at Maple Grove. And in one of the strangest races of the day, both cars had problems. First, it was Force losing power, then Hoover, but Hoover squeaked by for the victory.
We're okay. The car's running strong numbers. Whatever happened here was just a malfunction. I don't know if it's a blower belt or couldn't have been a camshaft. It just shut itself off. And what can you do but coast? But I got a good crew and a great team and great sponsors, Castrol and Jolly Rancher and all my people. This Oldsmobile will be back.
The loss by John Force, coupled with a big victory by Cruz Pedregon, put Pedregon in the Winston points lead. This marked the 3rd consecutive event that Cruz and the McDonald's team had won the funny car title at a Winston Series championship event.
Well, with Warren Johnson making the final round against a resurgent Jerry Ekman, who red-lighted, by the way, in that final, it all but clinched the title for Warren. He wouldn't claim it, that's bad luck. But let's face it, we did the math, and Warren Johnson was going to be the Winston champion, whether he liked it or not.
It was a remarkable weekend of performance in Pennsylvania. We moved then to the windswept plains of Kansas, Heartland Park, Topeka, for the Sears Craftsman National.
And again, Scott Jeffreyon makes a final round. His opponent, again, his former boss, the man that gave him a start in big league pro stock racing, Warren Johnson. After his win in the semis, I asked Scott, is today the day it happens? You've heard this before. You're sick of it. You're 1 round away.
Yeah, it sure does get monotonous after a while, but I'm going to hang tough this round, and hopefully with a little coaching from Roy Hill and at drag racing school, he's been keeping me good on the tree all weekend, and Warren's going to have to give it his best shot to beat this Dodge Daytona.
The monotonous questions continued for Scott Jeffreyon as he fell short in the finals against WJ. The Dodge that had been in the winner's circle here at Topeka for all 3 previous Heartland Nationals events fell just a little bit short. A slight handling problem, just enough to let WJ by. He took the win, closer to that Winston title.
Warren, congratulations. You've won here in Topeka, but the title, we're going to have to wait till Dallas in 2 weeks to celebrate that.
I think it's a little more solid now than it's been in the past. There's no doubt about that. Dallas, anything can happen there. That's an extremely fast racetrack, but we finally won at Topeka. We broke the string of the Dodge, finally.
In Top Fuel Racing, Kenny Bernstein, fresh off of that big victory just 2 weeks ago at Maple Grove, had qualified #2. In the first round, he was racing Shelly Anderson at the wheel of the Jolly Rancher Candy's car, and as the nasty pattern had developed all season long, Bernstein lost in the first round. What a blow it was to his Winston points home as Shelly Anderson went on and took an easy victory as Bernstein blew the tires off of the Bud King.
Well, I would imagine that Kenny Bernstein is absolutely shocked that this car smoked the tires. You didn't go up there that aggressively.
No, first time in about 9 or 10 runs now. Thought we had a handle on it, but obviously we didn't.
Now you got to hope that Amato has some problems or gets beat.
Yeah, you know, both Amato and Corey Mack both, but Corey Mack's already in the next round, so tough day for the King.
Indeed. Kenny Bernstein's title hopes take a pretty horrible turn.
The title hopes of Joe Amato got a big boost when he won his first round race.
Well, you'd be smiling, too, if you saw Kenny Bernstein go out and then you ran a 487.
It's never over until it's over, you know. It's that's the way that things are. Sometimes he has problems with them blinds in the first round. You know, Laurie John just always beat him in the first round, and I guess we owe the team, the Jolly Rancher team, a big congratulations for putting them out for us.
The final round appearance by Joe Amato certainly added to his Winston points total. And his competition was to be the hottest car on the circuit at that point, Ed McCulloch. Out of the last 3 races, he had been in the finals for 2 events.
When Lee Beard, you just saw walk away, joined this team, a lot of people said he and McCulloch will never get along. I got news for you. They're the best of friends, racing buddies, and they are winners. Since the U.S. Nationals, this has been the car to beat.
It was a brilliant driving job by McCulloch against Amato in this final. A nearly perfect reaction time, coupled with a 483, gave him the Craftsman title.
Well, it was a good drag race. You know, we knew it was going to be a good drag race when we pulled to the starting line. I mean, Amato and his crew, you know, they deserve a lot. They're a great team, and we just love winning this kind of race.
You may get a nice thank you note from Kenny Bernstein for that one.
Well, you know, we're really not in the hunt here in the points, but we can make life miserable for those guys that think they are.
You already have.
Thank you.
The final of Funny Car at Topeka painted the picture of the Winston points chase for the entire season. Cruz Pedregon raced John Force.
Well, strategy, same thing we always play. You know, you want to jump up and down, but there's not much you can do. But mainly, I got my mind right. The things I was doing wrong personally, I changed because it's down to 3 races. And let me tell you something, it's very critical. We're talking winter payroll here with this Winston money, and we got to get it back.
I myself just try to focus him out and just run my own race. And, you know, I know it's going to be a tough task to beat John Force and to take the title, but, you know, I just try not to think about it. You know, I know that what we have to do, and I feel that we really want to win it, so we just do what we have to do.
Well, on the surface, Cruz and John might appear to be opposite personalities, but there's one thing they share, and it runs very, very deep, and that is their passion to win.
Coming into this final round, Pedregon had the advantage on paper. He had run as quick as a 5:12. And he used all of that performance to put away Force, and Force exploded an engine just before the finish line. Riding out a blazing inferno, Force came to the far end of the racetrack, ran into the guardrail, and spun the car out in the shutdown area. The fire continued to burn as the safety safari crew moved in very quickly. The emergency crew helped Force out of the blazing car. And amazingly, John was uninjured in the incident.
You okay, my friend? You all right, John?
Yeah, except I lost.
Well, you did indeed, but you did a great job of getting this thing stopped and off the wall.
Had him covered, never saw him, 800 feet or so. Thought, hey, here we go. We're on the way to that championship, but we welded our old hound dog. I told you we would.
You did.
We either win it or we'd do it. But my safety features, the stuff on board, kept the fire off me. And just to Castrol and all my people at Oldsmobile and Jolly Rancher, I love you. We did our best. We ain't out of the points deal. We're just moving on to Dallas. That's all. If we lost, I don't even know why.
You're a brave man, John.
The singed helmet in John's hand spoke volumes about the safety equipment directed the fire away from John Force.
You know, Dave, we've always said if we ever go to the Texas Motorplex on a cool, dry day, Lord knows what will happen at the Chief Nationals. We got it, we found out, and it was incredible.
It certainly was, as Kenny Bernstein came to the Motorplex and set a new national ET record. 4.792 was the mark that was on the board after this qualifying effort by Kenny Bernstein in the near lane. Alongside of him was Pat Austin. 200 bonus points went to Bernstein in the Winston chase as a result of this run.
we're proud of it. Anything we can do out here to keep some pressure on the model, that's what we've got to do right now.
And for this car, not very fast, 291.
It ran real sour down here at this end. It just won't run at the top end, but Dale and Wes will get it figured out.
Great pass.
In round number 2 racing, it was Shelly Anderson. Remember her from Topeka, putting away the Bud King in the first round of competition. Here at the Jeep Auto Parts Nationals, it was round number 2, where Anderson and Bernstein squared off. And guess what? The results were the same this time, with a huge engine explosion for Bernstein. Shelly's consecutive victories over Kenny Bernstein just added fuel to the legend that Bernstein cannot beat the blondes.
Well, Ed McCullough, remember what he said at Topeka? I can't win the championship, but I can sure ruin the day of those that are trying. In the same round, he came up against Amato, and true to his word, McCullough 486, Amato 489. Amato out of the points picture at Dallas.
Ace, if you're looking for a free lunch, I think Bernstein's buying tomorrow.
Well, Bernstein said he might even get me a brewery if I could take Amato out. But, you know, it was a great race. You know, we know we're not really in the hunt for the championship, but we know we can sure screw these guys' days up that think they got it whooped.
Well, Eddie Hill was Ed McCullough's competition in the final round, and Hill fell short as Ed picked up his 3rd victory in the last 4 races. Doug Herbert also had an experience at Dallas. He was the latest member to join the uncoveted blowover club in Top Fuel Racing. Herbert was able to extricate himself from the car. He climbed out uninjured. The only thing really damaged, besides his race car, was his pocketbook.
Okay, Warren Johnson, by virtue of merely qualifying at the Dallas event, became the 1992 Winston Pro Stock champion, officially once and for all. The finalists in Pro Stock were Bob Glidden and Scott Jeffrey-on again, a runner-up.
In Funny Car Eliminator, the story of the Winston Points chase unfolded once again as John Force and Cruz Pedregon battled it out on the racetrack. Cruz came to this final looking for his 5th consecutive win. Force brought yet another brand new car to the starting line.
Well, racing the defending world champion John Force, you know, we're like you say, this title's probably on the line here, so I'm confident in the car. I'm gonna have to pick up the pace as a driver, though. I'm gonna have to be more aggressive, and you know, I've always liked the pressure, and boy, I couldn't ask for more pressure than what I have here in front of me now.
We need to beat him here if we can, but mainly we need that national record. We really pushed it there to get a 10 just because he ran so good, but we need the record. We need to run a 05 with this thing if we can. Otherwise, you know, I need a miracle at Pomona, and I don't believe in miracles.
Brock Yates in our live T&M telecast from Dallas described what you're about to see is more like a short track stock car race in a bull ring. Watch it happen.
Both drivers went up in smoke off the starting line, and Pedregon crossed the finish line ahead of Force. John had been disqualified earlier by hitting the guardrail.
Well, once I saw he was having trouble, I was on a mission to get to the finish line first. And you know, these cars, if you smoke the tires early, the momentum's not there. So pedaling is, I would only do that in that situation, the qualifying run or something like that. You take a chance breaking a drive shaft or hitting the wall. But yeah, once I saw him have problem, I said, get to the finish line however you can.
John Force being helped out of his race car. The impact with the guardrail kind of rang his bell just a little bit, but Force came out uninjured.
And the car wasn't that badly damaged and was repaired for the season-ending event. We end where we began, at the LA County Fairplex in the Winston Final.
This was the Parade of Champions. This event marked the crowning of all of our Winston champs, and Warren Johnson came back in front of this huge crowd with a wave to the fans, happy to win his first ever Winston Championship title. The funny car battle went right down to the wire. John Force continued to have problems. He rebuilt the car, brought it out for this race. Remember, 2 weeks ago, this was the car that ran into the guardrail. This time, against Wyatt Radke in qualifying, John Force had the throttle stick open. The car flipped over onto its top, and it skidded down the racetrack until it came to a stop right at the finish line. The safety safari crew came and helped John out of the car, and with a wave to the crowd said he was fine.
It's just one of them things that happens. It's a different body on the car. We did run it at Phoenix. But we ain't out of this race. Cruz Petragon's horseshoes are holding, obviously. But we got another car in the trailer. We can get back, fix this one maybe, mainly get back in the game for the fans, because that's why we're here. The money's dead. It's over unless we win this thing, and we're going to try.
They did indeed fix the car that John rolled over Saturday afternoon, re-qualified it. Then Sunday, round 1 of eliminations up against Gary Bolger. John Force loses the race and the championship.
Well, Cruz, would you have believed 6 months ago that you would be sitting here, the Winston Funny Car champion?
Absolutely not. We're with a great team, and your expectations are high, but until it happens, you're still wondering.
What an incredible comeback for Cruz Pedregon after that disastrous start of the season. 5 wins in a row, tying Don Prudhomme's record, and Cruz, the Winston champion. The winner of the Winston Finals, Chuck Etchells, celebrated with his crew chief, Maynard Yangst. Remember, we told you about the problems that Kenny Bernstein has had all season long in first-round races, particularly against female drivers. Well, it was not only against blondes that he had problems. Brunettes gave him fits as well. It was Danielle DePorter that drove past a broken Kenny Bernstein to take the round 1 victory. That, in turn, handed the championship to Joe Amato, who began his celebration.
It's a shame. One of those things, you know.
No one will ever forget the 300-mile-an-hour year you've had, though.
Well, we appreciate that. It's a great honor for the team and for our people to accomplish that. We're just, Joe Amato, that whole group, this group out here runs really hard, and it's tough to keep up with them all the time. And, obviously it's been 2 years in a row we've gone down to the wire here, but maybe next year will be our year. We're glad it's over with, actually, to be honest about it.
See you 93.
I mean, people wrote us off. I mean, they wrote us off. I have to give Tim Richards credit for training my guys to be as good as they are, because he trained the team, and it shows in how good they're performing.
Now there's a race to be won.
Well, that's the icing on the cake, but it's like somebody took a weight off my shoulder, and I'm sure we're going to try and win the race, but we'll just worry about the championship was the big one.
What a celebration it was for Amato, receiving the accolades of the fans as he was towed back to the pit area. But there was one race that remained late in the evening. Corey McClenathan won the Winston Finals, and in doing so, he celebrated with Jimmy Prock, his crew chief. That moved him into second in the Winston chase, with the remembrance that if he had just gone to Montreal, he would have been the Winston champ. The second half of the top 10 in Top Fuel found Danielle DePorter moving into the 10th spot. In doing so, she earned the 1992 Winston Rookie of the Year honors. For Joe Amato, his 5th Winston Top Fuel crown. What a season it was.
And for Warren Johnson, a 20-year-old dream came true. He wins his first ever Pro Stock title. Scott Jeffrey wore out the bridesmaid's gown. Jerry Ekman faded from 1st to 3rd. And Ricky Smith, with 3 runner-up finishes, rounded out the top 10. Can the professor be stopped in 1993? That's the question.
In funny car racing, John Force will go down in history as the man that refused to give up in his dream of his 3rd consecutive Winston title. But it was not to be. Pedregon took the championship. The top 10 was rounded out by Gary Bolger, his best performance in a 2-decade-plus long career. Cruz Pedregon, a 2nd-generation drag racer and a first-time Winston champion. For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClellan. Glad that you could join us for 1992. We'll see you on Drag Racing 93.